One Waynesboro man is looking to transform a vacant building into a media center for area youth. WHSV's Chelsea Church has how he's hoping to do that.
Oh, I see. Film production, recording studios.
Leon Bowen stumbled upon this building on Bayard Avenue in Waynesboro and got an idea.
Just giving tutorials on how to make these dreams that manifest in a bedroom go into reality and able to push your brand further and get it into the right hands.
Bowen is asking for the community's help with his vision of creating the NVizion Center, a place for area youth to explore music, film, photography, and art inspired by Berry Gordy and Hitsville.
And he created Motown in that house. And I'm like, why has that stopped? Why are we not having centers of just little geniuses kicking out great stuff?
It's going to take a lot of work to transform this vacant building, but Bowen says he's ready to put in the time and effort.
And for these kids, I want to show that, what does it look like to see something that's almost about to be just almost demolished, get revamped into something beautiful.
And Bowen is confident he can make this happen with support from the community.
There's a reason why this is still standing here and why we're in front of it today.
You can help with his vision by donating on GoFundMe. We'll have a link available on WHSV.com. In Waynesboro, Chelsea Church, WHSV.
Chelsea, thank you.
One of the things I want to start out by just talking about a little bit, and I just want to say congratulations to you.
Thanks.
I'm just, I'm blown away, really, quite frankly. I'm blown away because you had a vision, like an epiphany, and about a community center, and the next day, the very next, not less than 24 hours, you're on the news, like the regional news, and they're interviewing you.
Yeah, shout out to WHSV.
No, absolutely. I mean, they covered so well, and I thought they did such a great job. And it is a need right now. If leaders are not talking about community, they're missing something, right? Leaders need to be talking about security. Leaders need to be talking about, safety. Leaders need to be talking, but they also need to be talking about community and optimism and things like that. And I just thought what happened with you was just so timely. When all the news is negative or worrisome, here you come on and you're saying, I've got this vision for the community, for people to come in and to be able to walk to this place and do something pro-social and developmental for youth and for our future. And I just thought the timing was impeccable. Kudos to you. What did it feel like? Why don't you walk me through it a little bit? What was that like?
I appreciate that. So I guess, we got to do a little background work, right? Because this is kind of where, the seeds get planted. I want to credit both of my parents for being the entrepreneurs that they are. My grandmother, my uncles, all of them, I just really grew up seeing that and being around this entrepreneurial spirit of going to get something to solidify legacy. Mm-hmm. Like that's a really big piece. So first off, that's just my primary foundation is, trying to create legacy and something positive. That's my root. Secondary, music.
Yeah.
Live it, breathe it, eat it, drink it. I love music. I love the music business. I love everything about it. And I was blessed to have mentors, just to be around the studio, just to sit back and watch someone put a beat together and or to find a sample or, to get your first pair of doubles and, actually be able to catch the drops, those are, to me, those are magical moments. So yeah, I'm hip hop through and through. Yeah.
I remember when I first met you and, instead of making eye contact, I was staring at your neck and I'm staring at your neck because I'm like, what is that? There's like music stuff like tattooed on your neck, like a boombox.
That's a funny story, man. That's a really funny story.
Like, so it is serious to you, you know? I was just like, wow.
Well, it was, you know, it's serious to me forever in a day, but in the moment it was impulsive. Okay, let's just be honest.
Okay, all right. You can say that now looking back.
Oh, 19, yeah. Oh, yeah, it was a knee jerk, you know. But I remember I was attending Five Town College. I was working, in Dix Hills, New York. You know, shout out to all my peers that I've met along the way. G Money, DJ G Money, who's just doing phenomenal things right now with his podcast with Queen's Flip. You know, just a lot. Cindy Winters, who, you know, was in Hamilton. She was in The Lion King on Broadway. You know, Gerard Thompson, you know, just all these different people. These are my peers, you know, day in, day out, you know, classmates. And, well, we lived in the same quarters, you know. It was just like a melting pot. And what I remember best about that time, here you were, you know, just a bunch of young people, and it's the safe zone of music and art. And, you know, some did drama, and we had every class from, you know, marketing 101 to jazz history to business law. You know, you should have seen the nights of that parking lot. You know, you're talking about a group of guys rapping here, you know, people socializing over there, another group of kids over there with the guitars. And I mean, like, this was every day. And, you know, I was just blessed really to be, you know, that young, working with Sony, being a rep in the city, and you know, just soaking in all that information, all that knowledge. You know, shout out to Quincy Jackson, Gary Beach, Anthony Ellis, just all the folks, Tim Jinks, you know, like just everyone who, even Nate Robinson. You know, Nate was cool. But I was just blessed, man. Quan Prathers, you know, just KP. So
the names are coming to you. They're coming back.
Well, because I remember, you know, just because I'm going somewhere else right now. But
I was
back
just
to this vision. No, I'm just
okay.
So yeah, well, that was, I was actually so committed.
You know?
No, well, so with that, I was so committed to music. I gave it 1,001%, and it got me kicked out of school.
Right. Yeah.
It got me kicked out of school.
But you know what? This is really interesting. Let me come back. Let me just mention something about that.
So I went and got a tat on my neck that way.
I knew you were full circle.
Well, that way I said to myself, look, whatever I do in life, even if it sounds stupid, right? But it made sense, because to me, you got to have visual reminders of passion.
Symbolic. You
have to, right? You have to see something every day to go, this is what it's about, always.
Well, that's like the
So I knew that even if I put on a shirt with a tie,
right,
the handlebar still peeks out, and it's still a reminder, hey, you know, it's right there. It's in your face always.
Yeah. No, I knew it was serious too. I knew music.
Yeah, that's funny.
but
I go so left. Where did I go with that?
No, you went down memory lane, and I felt like I was walking the halls of Juilliard. I mean, it was really.
Oh, you're funny.
Good to hear that. But here's the thing, you know.
But to the center, man. Yeah.
No, the success piece, though. You're driven to leave legacy. I heard you say something about leaving legacy. You're driven by music. It's what you're committed to. And you were so committed that you left school.
No, I got kicked out of school.
Okay, I was going to be gentle with that, but you got kicked
No, you don't have to, because you know what? This is a lesson, you know, for young people, you know, and I say young people in regards to 17, 18, 19.
Right.
Be careful with how you juggle your dreams.
Yeah.
Just be careful, you know, because you got to put things in perspective.
The one thing that I see you doing now, though, and again, it is commitment to your craft, it's commitment to the cause, is that there will be times when people don't see Leon. You know, Leon shows up when he either has to show up or it's important for him to show up. But when you're not showing up, you're working. You're working on your craft. You're working on your success. You're working on your legacy. You're working on collaborating with people that are continuing to help you grow and develop and become the entrepreneur or self-actualize in entrepreneurship. You know, that's you. And so you put in work, and that's what happened when I saw you on the news. That's what happened, is that you were out working. I wasn't seeing you. I had no idea what was going on. Next thing I know, you're on the 5 o'clock, you're on the 6 o'clock, you're on the 10. I'm in the bathroom, and I hear, I just finishing up, and I hear the news go, a local Waynesboro man, right?
Yeah.
And I sprint out, and my one daughter already has the camera up, and she's videotaping, and there you are in your New York Mets hat and camouflage jacket in front of this huge community center. And it's
the Mets hat just might have to be a staple moving forward. You know, everything's about branding, so this might just be the look from now on. You might get another different look every now and then, but I don't know. It's weird. It's you know, I was born in Queens. I have a really special connection with Queens. I also, you know, was raised in Rockland County, and I have a very special connection with Rockland County. I've been blessed to see just what the suburbs look like at a young age. You know, people always used to clown that. There's no reason to clown that, man. That's
right.
Parents worked hard, got a house. You know, I was able to go outside in the yard, and then now, you know, you're planting seeds of what could be. Yeah. You know, it's bigger than, you know, apartments and tenements, and you know, where they think they're going to find us. No such thing. You know, so with the center, back to the center, because I do want to talk about that primarily. I've been blessed also in the last 8 to 10 years to work with youth. And while working with them, I've been able to grow myself. I've actually been able to find more of myself and what I want to do with myself and with my time well spent, you know. I've yet to see a center for kids where they can go make a beat, create a song, shoot a video, produce the video, edit the song, record the song, perform the song, right?
Right.
Work on their craftsmanship. Here we are right now where most of our youth today are technology driven, right? They're into YouTube. They're into social media. So these are the tools that they're using right now, right? So for me, wouldn't it make sense to allow them to use the tools in the best and safe way possible, and actually give them whatever information we can give them that's going to help them move forward with those tools?
Yeah.
Right? Because let me tell you, every dad, if you have a son and you love sports, the first thing you do is put a basketball, football, baseball bat, or a soccer ball in that child's hand, correct?
Right. No, that's correct.
Absolutely. It's a way that we think, right?
Yep.
But why is it not like that with the arts?
Yeah. Yeah.
The sound of music is by far the biggest way of communicating and expression. Come on, are you serious, man? Like,
no, and the thing that really struck me also about this community center is when you said it's in walking distance of the people that live right here in this community.
Absolutely.
And it made me think back when in our own city, they moved the high school from a dense, impoverished kind of area to the outskirts, the very edge of town. And what happened is that people couldn't, there were youth that didn't have rides home. They were going, you know, so they couldn't participate. Their parents were working different shifts, so they're not able to go all the way out and pick them up and bring them back. And you go, well, they could catch rides, but that was so unpredictable and so challenging. And you know how coaches are, you know, coaches want you to be there on time. You got to, you know, and when you leave, have your ride there on time. Coaches don't want to stand out and have to wait forever for some miscommunication with transportation. And so it really cut off a slice of the community that could participate in athletics or the arts, you know, because the high school was so far removed from this community where it was a community high school. And so now when you say, hey, these people can just walk here, and they've got something after school or on weekends to do to really hone a craft and to do something that's pro-social versus anti-social. This is the type of thing that we need, especially, you know, in a time when youth are just want to belong, they want to be a part of something. And if you don't provide something pro-social, they're going to find something like gangs or something anti-social, you know.
It's true.
I felt like it was important. It was good to see.
No, and you know, I also, good morning, Sophia.
Hey, so.
Can you hear us?
Good morning.
Morning. Hey, hola.
The prodigal daughter returns.
Hey.
Hey.
Ooh,
You don't like the 10:30 thing at all.
Hey, look at that shirt. I love that shirt. Hey, lean back. Hey, let me see that shirt again. That's Mandela with his prison number.
Bang.
Nice.
Bang.
No, 10:30 is hard.
Nah, man, it's easy when you get up at 9.
Yes, see, it would be easy if I got up at 9. But I don't get up at 9 on Saturdays.
Well, it all depends on what your Friday night looks like.
Right. Last night I went to bed at like 5. So, but I networked.
5 p.m. or a.m.?
AM.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm a little tired. I work at 2.
All right. No, hey, listen, man.
No, but hey, we networked last night.
No judgment.
No judgment.
It's good. No, Leon was just talking about the NVizion Center.
Oh.
Yeah.
The music center, and then being on the news, and then the fundraiser for the you know, for it to be remodeled, the soliciting of volunteers, and so no, it's just
all college interns. We'll just go straight.
It's amazing.
Oh,
Really.
100%.
Straight high school and college.
That's
amazing.
Shout out to NVizion. Where can people, like, if they wanted to donate to this community center, where can they find the GoFundMe page, or what? How can we?
Instagram at the NVizion Center. The GoFundMe link is in the bio. It's in my bio. You couldn't go on my page and not see it. So
okay. So Lee Bueller.
It's right there. Yeah, it's in your face. You know.
Good.
Hey, but I do want to do a quick shout out to all of the local artists from Waynesboro, Stanton, Charlottesville, Richmond, Harrisonburg, all the guys and girls who I've interacted with, club owners who are doing this already, who are, you know, trying to get the word out and trying to put stuff out there and throw parties and put on shows and make this somewhat of an attraction area, because why not?
Yeah.
Why not? You know, we have a pretty big population here in Central Virginia, and, you know, you're talking no real attraction, like no sporting arena, like, you know, no music hall. Like, where do these kids get it off? Like, you know, so yeah. Of course, you know, drug usage goes up, crime goes up, right? You know, people stay, you know, more unmotivated to do something. And we just got to stop that. We just got to try to just do what we can. But, you know, they say when you talk like this, you talk dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? When you talk about revamping communities, dangerous talk, because now you have to have people buy in.
Yeah.
They have to see it.
And politics can be nasty. Politics can be tough to navigate, bureaucracy, red tape, you know, but you're giving youth a voice of what they want, what they need, and you're advocating for the youth of today. And again, especially during this time, what a great story to talk about community and what can happen in the community. I just thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I just want to point this out, and this is my last piece, and we can move forward. I have no fear in failing. at all. I don't really care too much for no. It's supposed to happen like that, you know. So you just this week there's been a lot of talk, and you know, with the positive talk, there's also risk talk, and it's like, well, what if this goes left? And it's like, well, what if it does? What if it
No,
does, right?
fear. It's
But
amazing how fear can cripple
yeah,
your freedom, your creativity, your entrepreneurial spirit, the very essence of who you are, because we go through this traditional
well,
kind
I
of,
have fear though, LH. I
I
have
get
fear.
a job, serve the man, put food
Yeah.
on the table, you know, and you don't jump out and do these things. Not very many people do, but everybody
Well,
that's
no, I have fear though, man.
probably did it
I,
some.
I'm only afraid of not succeeding the way it's supposed to look in my head. You know, the way it's mapped out. I'm afraid of not getting to that place. But the fear of doing it, no, by far, no.
I watched one of my daughters just go through the angst, almost crippling angst of, do I put my own shingle out and do my thing that's going to give me life and fulfillment, or do I just keep going through the motions of serving the man to make the predictable dollar, but at the cost of my soul, of stealing my joy, of, not that she couldn't find joy in that, but I'm just saying she was, and so she turned in her notice. And there's a freedom, there's a fear in that, but there's a freedom in that, you know, that says, now I can just give it my all and really move forward. And that risk to reward,
Right.
is real.
Well, you know, you got to point out too that she's also at a really great point in life,
Right.
where you're able to make those decisions and then not fall back on anyone but self.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that's
you
a
don't-
beautiful
those
thing.
depend on you. You don't
Yeah,
have,
it's a beautiful thing because, and not that having a family is not. Let me not say that. That's not what this is. But we're saying that, you know, just how you navigate has to be different.
yeah.
You know, so kudos to her because no, that's, you know, you planting your feet and you gotta, you know.
I remember when I was in the academy, you know, here I am, and I'm talking with this psychology professor. And he said, Luke, I'm getting out of the professorship. I'm going to leave academia. And I said, what are you going to do? That's the question. Well, what are you going to do? You know, he's got a family, he's got a wife and children. What are you going to do? And he said, you know, it's funny because that's the first question everybody asks me. What am I going to do? As if I have to do something to appease their anxiety that I'm not going to be working. He said, I just respond by saying, I'm giving myself the space to figure that out. You talk about scary to just walk away.
Yeah, that's
You know what I mean? I'm like, people go, are you crazy? You know, how are you going to feed your family? How are you going to take care of this? But he knew that he needed to do something that was going to give him life and meaning and joy. And he walked away. And now, you know, he runs a retreat center where he can use his musical gifts and he can do therapy and he can share it. And he just put his own shingle out there. And I was really proud of him. But at the time, he had no idea what he was going to do. And he gave himself the space and time to think about it. And he figured it out. He said, no, I'll figure out how to put food on the table. I'll do what I have to do, you know, but I'm going to walk away from the man.
right.
Yeah.
Can I, so episode 4, Potting with Perspective, 40 minutes in, you know, dropping that bomb there. I want to pose a question to both of you. Real simple. Doesn't have to be deep or very intricate. It could just be, you know, what it is. What does legacy mean to you? That's my only question. I'll just stop there. What does legacy mean to you? Yeah, it's a stumper. No, it stumps you. Right.
Well, so what do you think?
when I think of legacy, I think it kind of,
Sophia, you're gone tomorrow, God forbid. What do they say about you? What do you leave behind? What have you done? You know, Luke the same.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think, so when I think of the term legacy in general, I think of someone who has made an impact on others.
Mm-hmm.
They achieved goals they've set for themselves. Like this, I don't know why when I think of legacy, like athletes come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but that was kind of the first thing that came up, you know, when we, in our.
Is that because of stats?
And like,
because you're able to see numbers
because
and,
you're
you know,
able to
see accolades. Right.
But then, like, when it comes to, I think legacy is a very large term. Like, for me right now, like, if I were to say, okay, what have I done? Like, if I were gone today, would I have been a legacy? I achieved goals, you know, like I'm proud of what I've done so far in my career, in my academics, even outside, you know, who have I helped? What have I done to make a difference?
Absolutely.
However, I haven't done everything I want to do. So does that keep me from being a legacy because I could do more? But can everyone do more? I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's what you do within your time.
Right.
It's what you do with your time. How you know, time well spent.
Is it also like how well you're known? Does that matter?
Well, I think, you know, they say the dead always become more famous. So I never believe what you do here on earth, people take notice to it immediately. It's what they see after, you know. Mm-hmm. Realistically.
Right.
Luke?
Legacy is, you know, I'm old, you know, I'm getting older. We're all getting older, but I'm old. And so it's really interesting for me because when I look back over my life, you know, you hope and pray that your legacy, that you're not known by the mistakes that you've made over time. Some people are going to hold those mistakes that you made. They're going to try to cement those, and they will try to maybe make that your legacy. But my hope is that my legacy is more about how I made people feel when I was around them, more about selfless acts of kindness that I maybe did for others and they remember. I walked into a store, it's probably 2 years, no, it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago in the mall, you know, when we still had what were malls. Those are going by the wayside. But I walked into a store, I think it was a Hallmark store. And there was a woman working behind the cash register, and I was buying the candle or whatever I was getting. And she said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't." And she said, "You know, I had you for earth science as a teacher at Broadway High School. You were co-teaching earth science." And she said, and I know, you know, you saw lots and lots of students, but I'll never forget that one time you told me that you hoped that your daughters someday would turn out like me, would be just like me. And I'll never forget that moment because it was just one of the kindest things that I would have never even thought about for my entire life. But to say, she remembered as a 15, 16, 17-year-old. And this is when I'm only 22 years old, 23 years old with no children, you know. just recently married. And
how hip was your earth science class?
listen,
22-year-old, you
yeah,
know, did you give him like My Prerogative and like The Elements?
This is, but I don't know how hip it was. We did some cool
Hammer Pants and all that.
Yeah, no, there was some of that, but Stacy was with me when and we heard this together, and I thought, now I can look back and go, man, in her eyes, the legacy of Luke is the way she felt, or the way I made her feel, or the way I treated her, that somehow she felt really like that was such a compliment that it probably shaped some of her decisions and behaviors, that somebody wants their daughter that they haven't even had yet to grow up to be just like her. That's a microcosm.
Where is she now?
I have no idea. That was a one-time experience. I haven't seen her since, And so, but what I'm talking about is that I hope people will go, oh man, he made me feel like $1 million, or he was so kind to me, or he was in my corner when no one else was, or that's the kind of legacy. It's not the stuff like, oh, he was a vice president of a university, or he was a professor, or he was a this or that. That to me does not matter at all. Like, it does not matter to me.
Well, I guess
maybe it should, but it doesn't.
Well, no, the way people feel about us, I think, is important. It boils down to that as well, because it's like, all right, look, I can do all these great things, but if people look at me as an asshole, then it's like,
right,
like, what are you doing it all for? But I was also asking in regards to like assets, homes, properties, things in their names, just ways to create a living moving forward, 20, 30 years from now.
No, for me, I don't really think much about that, because for me, that is more about the journey. Legacy, you're starting to talk about the end result. And for me, I never focus on the end result. I focus on the journey. Like, I really want to experience the experience that I'm experiencing. So I'll do those things for my own sense of identity and my own journey. And people used to say, oh, I got to go find myself, and I want to scream at them and go, no, tell me what you're committed to, and I'll tell you who you are, Name the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and I'll tell you who you are. Those are the kind of things but people always want to say, oh, I'm just really searching for, what are you committed to? And then in the end, legacy takes care of itself. All those kind of things take care of itself. If I focus on that, I don't know that I ever get there. If I'm too busy focused on that, I focus on what is it that gives me life and meaning and joy and energy, and the rest will take care of itself. That's where I come from. I don't, right or wrong. That's just my perspective.
Well, there's no right or wrong.
It's a great
really
question.
No right or wrong. Right. Because it's what what does it mean to you? And that was
to
my
you,
question.
right? Exactly.
What does
everybody has their own right.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's a great question, though. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like the question when they say, "What would you like written on your tombstone?" When you're gone. Huh.
No, it's true. It's true. So it's been a slow news week in regards to I think the positive side is there's no alarming murders, this week, which I just feel like becomes like this trending topic every week, constantly. But I'm just glad that we got some positivity rolling.
One of the things that I thought was interesting is that the CDC, I always wonder who makes up the CDC, right? Because they throw out all these guidelines and requirements, or not recommendations, not requirements, but recommendations. And the CDC is important. And in many ways, I think following the CDC guidelines, before you open up your communities, those things are important, But on our very first podcast, I talked about education in schools. And now we're starting to get closer to summer school. What's that going to look like? And is it going to be 4 weeks? Is it going to be 6 weeks? Is it going to be online? Or are we going to already start trying to do something in person? But the CDC just came out this week with its recommendations for opening schools, public schools in the fall, and parents were freaking out, right? And teachers were freaking out. Administrators like myself are kind of like, wow, this is really interesting, because let me just go over a couple of these, and I think about, were there any educators on the CDC council thinking about the realities of these recommendations? The first thing they said was your school desks, if you're going to open up school, must be 6 feet apart. Or you have to have sneeze guards or partitions between students. When I go into a classroom and you've got 32 kids to a class, I've never seen a classroom, I can't even envision a classroom where 6 feet apart, having desks 6 feet apart you're going to have how many desks in a class,
It's not realistic.
10, 12, maybe 10.
Yeah, it's not realistic.
And so that they said no sharing of supplies. The CDC, we really don't want you to share supplies. Well, from a budgetary standpoint, we have to share so many supplies, devices, games, toys, instructional materials, so no sharing of supplies. And there hasn't been a stimulus bailout for public education like there has been for private education in like higher ed. Virginia Commonwealth University just received $20 million of CARE Act stimulus money, right?
Wow.
And so Bridgewater College, small liberal arts private college, received, I think between $1 and $2 million, right? But publics aren't getting that. Buses, the recommendation is to put one kid in a bus seat and they have to skip seats. Well, if you got 60 kids on average on a bus route, but you can put one kid in a seat instead of 3, and they have to be every other seat. Talk about the logistics of busing.
What is it, 10 rows or like 12 rows?
Yeah, we usually have I think there's usually about 20, you have about 20 seats total, maybe on a bus.
Well, I would say just a row, so it's like 2.
Yeah, 10
2,
on 10 and 10.
2.
Yeah, 10 and 10.
And then you're sitting 2 kids per seat.
Sometimes 3, yeah.
Why 3? That's ridiculous.
No,
Listen, I was never the kid to be on the bus with and to be a 3-seater.
You'd say, no, find another seat. I can see.
No, I remember taking the bus to a field trip, and I was the eat the lunch kid. I would eat my lunch before I would even get to the field trip.
Yeah, then at lunchtime you didn't have one.
I had nothing.
Somebody,
I had
hey,
nothing
can I have a bite of your sandwich? Let me have a part of your sandwich.
I had nothing. I had the school lunch. I had the white bag. I ate my own lunch, but I hated the 3-seater.
The 3-seater.
But you're right.
But they're saying that. Think about the transportation logistics of that. Yeah. Think about no communal areas. You can't congregate in the cafeteria. There's no recess. What about bathrooms? And are they putting in partitions and more? How do you? And just getting kindergartners to wear a face mask. You know how hard that is to keep cloth or something over someone's face when they're 5 years old. Developmentally, try to think about that, and so. And then let alone special education and all. There's just so many logistics. To be quite frank, I think, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but we've been talking about school reform for years and years and years. And maybe just now, we're forced to think about school and schooling in some different ways. If kids are at home and you're going online, what does that do to parents who are working in childcare and economics? And I think about, is this also the very beginning of the second Great Depression in America?
Right.
So there's just so much to think about in regard to something that used to be so simple school used to be
Yeah.
so simple because we did it the same way for hundreds and hundreds of years.
So, I want to go somewhere else, and this is a terrible transition. But this past Sunday, the Last Dance aired its final episode, Say So. And
this is the Michael Jordan documentary.
Yeah, and there's some rumbling, this LeBron and Jordan talk. There's I don't know why there's still Kobe and Jordan talk, but how does this make Michael Jordan look, as an athlete? Does this redefine his greatness? Does this, does it kind of give a little too much insight to, just how tough he was, but then it was like a necessary toughness. So, looking back on it, it was like, well, they got 6 rings and maybe he had to, be this guy. But I really wanted to ask a couple kids. So what are your thoughts on Michael Jordan? Because they didn't see this. Yeah. They didn't see this in real time. They're watching this recap of greatness. So what is this? How does this stamp him?
So I was talking to a coworker and, sports junkie. And the coworker said that he watched, which was a great bonding opportunity, a father and a son watching every episode, on these Sunday nights. And his son, young son, said, Dad, I do think now, this has changed my mind. I do think Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. And my coworker told me, he said, my son is getting in these arguments with his friends now about LeBron versus Michael, etc. Having watched this documentary, it changed the minds of this next generation. Now, for me, and this goes back to your legacy, question. Mm-hmm. What is it to gain the whole world and lose your soul? I mean, that's what the Bible says, right? What is it to gain the whole world and lose your soul? And I'm not saying Michael necessarily lost his soul, but when they asked people, was Michael a nice guy? Was he kind? Was he caring? Was he humble? Did he have those character traits that I think, all in all, when you're just living the human life, are most important? Did he possess those? And if he had, would he still be the greatest? Probably not. Does that make sense? In other words, yeah. I thought it painted him really as, you sell out. When you're committed to something, this is what it takes to get to the top. You go hard. You can't have friends. This is how you treat people. You just step on them when they're down. It is cutthroat. It's look out for number 1. I'm the man. If you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. Second place is the first place loser. It's all that, which is kind of our American cultural value system, competition. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, I might be rambling right now, but I just think in the midst of my rambling, there are a couple nuggets in there to think about. And I thought that's what the show really depicted, was this kind of win at all costs, and what goes into being the greatest.
I tell you what, Michael Jordan, for me, is one word. He's childhood. He's my childhood. I grew up watching Michael Jordan. I grew up watching Kobe Bryant, but watching those highlights, man, it just kind of took me back.
Yeah.
I remember
watching it live. I watched it live.
Wow. I remember the Utah game. It was a really big deal. This push off Brian Russell. But it was he didn't push.
Leading someone to the table, like the maitre d'. What do you think, Soph? Are you hearing that?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, So what do you got for us? Give us something.
No, I don't have much. Of what I'm saying is, when it comes to sports, I've kind of grown up with them on, but I've never really been too invested, which sounds terrible.
You're
I
an
think you were
athlete.
more invested. I don't think you remember how invested you were. Let me tell some Sophia stories.
Oh gosh.
Because Sophia was invested. When she was in T-ball, she hit a home run. And when she rounded third and came across home plate, came around the fence to where the bench was, right in front of the crowd in the bleachers, she went, thank you very much, thank you very much. Like she wanted to win, you know. We moved here, and she had been playing co-ed soccer as a kindergartner or something, and we moved here, and in first grade she gets put on the soccer team, and they didn't really give her much tick because she wasn't one of the girls, you know. She wasn't in the, you know, you had all these soccer moms, you know. It was like I don't forget that show where all the moms are like stay-at-home moms, and they're rich and whatever. And Sophie comes in,
show on TV,
and she didn't get much tick. I'll never forget the game. Someone must have been missing, and they started her, and she scored 7 goals so quickly that everybody was stunned. And I don't know that she ever not started a game even through her college career. Like that's like, she was so driven. When I would come home from coaching a tournament, you know, out of town, I'd come back in. My one daughter would say, "Hey Dad, did you have fun?" And I'd be like, "It was okay, you know, this and that." This is the only daughter that would say, "Did you win?" That's all she cared about. Did you win? She would ask, "Did you win?" I can remember looking out the kitchen window, and she's in a coat. It's freezing cold in Kansas with the wind. And I've got the goal lowered, the basketball hoop lowered, but she's still so small that she can't reach the rim when she throws it up there. But she stayed outside and shot after shot after shot. Never once, hardly even hitting the rim for over an hour. And I go, that's going to be a player right there. That's an athlete, you know.
Yeah.
And so she tries to play it off. Well, I was never really that involved in sport. I mean, I really did not that competitive. No, you are having a memory lapse. You were so competitive. You were so competitive.
No, what I meant when it comes to sports on TV, when we're talking about Michael Jordan, when we're talking about watching these legends playing sports. Thanks for bringing up my competitiveness. I am very competitive. We all know.
No, Sophie, you're a great athlete.
No, she goes into one of those doors.
Why haven't you? So sports smart, like, wow, I'm so wow. Like, no, there's a hidden talent here that, you know, gotta polish off, man.
I know the talent. I just don't watch the talent on TV.
No, at the hotels, she would go into the revolving door second and want to come out first. Like, you know what I mean? Those like, that's how she is. She was like, no, I'm number one. You know?
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, nice.
That is funny. That is funny.
That is not, no. It's character. It is. No, it is. All right.
Hey, one of the things I am on a more serious note, and I don't have the research behind it, but I'm curious about it, is COVID-19 and how this is going to increase mental illness, mental health conditions. I think, you know, I talked with a law enforcement officer the other day, and he said that so many of the cases that they're dealing with are mental health issues. They're spending hours at the hospital, you know, because they can't, if they take them to the hospital, they have to stay there. It pulls their resources off the street. Mm-hmm. You know, Sophia, you're a crisis interventionist, so to speak. You worked in those crisis units at the hospital. You see the police officer waiting out there, you know.
For hours.
But so if you're locked inside, if you're not able to get out much, if you're not able to socialize, I'm thinking about more and more children. Just yesterday, I was talking to a friend, and his child came out, and the father said, "Hey, don't cry. look, your friend's not answering the phone right now. You know, maybe he has something going on. Don't cry right now because you can't get him on a Zoom call to play a game or whatever it is, you know. There's just so much right now with COVID. I wonder, in our society that was already on a steep escalation to mental illness numbers, if it's going to continue to increase, depression rates, anxiety rates. And then I think about the lack of affordability. I mean, mental health costs so much. If you don't have insurance, private pay for a 1 hour therapy session is probably $100 to $200, you know, out of pocket. And so, no, I just think about what is happening with depression and anxiety in particular to our society. You guys, what are your thoughts around that? Are you seeing some of that?
It's heavy. Yeah.
Which means more self-medication, more alcohol use, more illegal drug use, more, I mean, I just wonder what the future holds around that.
I think one thing that one kind of hope comes out of this, but what I think is like becoming a thing is just not stigmatizing mental health as much. So, you know, those who have never had to be isolated before are having to be isolated. And so now we have, you know, maybe they start to feel a little bit of depression, you know, and it becomes kind of this normal feeling, which again is not a positive feeling.
Right.
But understanding that, you know, people go through this every day, all day. You went through it for an hour.
Yeah.
And understanding that it's not just people feeling sorry for themselves. Like it's an actual disorder.
Yeah. It's a disease. It
is a disease.
Yeah, just like diabetes or anything else, right?
It's something within your body, and in this case, your brain
chemistry.
It's not functioning the way that it should. You're having disconnects between certain neurotransmitters and the receptors. Yep. You're not having you're having a legitimate chemical imbalance within your brain.
Yeah, not enough serotonin.
Right.
Right. And so I wonder if this will create more empathy when we come out of this. That's one thing that could happen. The other thing is to look at mental illness as that there's a difference between mental illness as a state versus a trait. In other words, we might have these episodes during COVID-19 and we're in a state, we have a state of mental illness versus someone who suffers with mental illness lifelong. And it's a trait, it's an actual trait of their existence. And so I wonder if we'll be having conversations around mental illness as a state versus mental illness as a trait, you know. But I like what you're saying that, yeah, we have some people that might feel depressed, but it's kind of almost like circumstantial depression versus like genetic, hereditary, or just some type of a serious disease of the mind.
Right.
Yeah. Right. No, it's real. It's real.
But I also do know that if the stigma is changing, it's because there's an influx or an increase of mental illness occurring all around, which comes from, you know, this isolation, or you might even enter like psychotic states if you're doing drugs, or you might, you know, so there's just what you might be doing more of because you have more time.
Yeah. Do you think more time spent on devices and less time with actual human beings in the flesh will have an impact on mental illness moving forward? Or do you think, no, our brains will just adapt and, you know, naturally, and it won't increase mental illness? with this kind of a digital, we're moving to a level, with
Well,
mindset.
I think for one, it's how you use the devices, right?
Okay.
Like,
right.
I think, a lot of the concern today is the content, not the device. It's what you're watching, what you're listening to. So I try to make sure that, we have TVs, we have tablets, we have laptops, computers, game consoles, right? DJ equipment, all these different things that we're using, but how are we using them? What message are we feeding to our children? What's being put on the television? So I actually I'm the guy that creates little YouTube playlists for my kids of all like the rare dope stuff that I find on there, and we just kick it and watch. Like, well, he's still asleep, like he's a college kid.
He knows
8-year-old. Yeah. Well, because so last night, we spent our time watching WrestleMania 13. So it's like yesterday was Willy Wonka. This morning will be like House of Highlights. It's like 48 minutes of all the illest NBA clips. So it doesn't have to be murder, death, kill. It doesn't have to be violence. It doesn't have to be negativity. There is good content. There are great YouTubers putting really good stuff together. And not to be cliche, but I got to wrap that right back around to the center, because that's the entire point of saying, okay, here we are, parents fighting devices. Why fight? Why not collaborate and just reshape the image of what's being plugged out there to our kids?
Interesting. Well said. Well said.
So.
No, that's you might as well be involved in it. Otherwise,
got to be involved.
They're gonna be
send
involved.
Your kids
they
out
are
to the
digital
community?
natives, right? They're going to be involved.
Come on, your kids go to the public schools. They use the community resources, right? We shop in the area. We pay taxes.
Yeah.
Why not? I don't understand why not. I guess I get stumped on that piece.
No.
Why aren't we doing this? You better be doing this.
Yeah.
I do think, though, with like if we end up, kind of replacing in-person communication and socialization and try to sub it with devices or online communication, that could play a role in, I don't know, just this loss of connection or feeling of connection, because, social interaction is key for human life. It's in the hierarchy of needs. What is that? Is it
Maslow?
Yeah, Maslow's. So it's like, I can call you and have a conversation, which is great, but it would also be great just to be in person.
Yeah.
And just kind of have that presence, and then you can go. Like,
right.
Yeah, you
can't touch, you can't nurture. You can't, and that is an important basic need, right?
Yeah.
But do the basic needs change over time as we enter
right.
the digital age? That was for a particular, life up to this time frame. I mean, up to this point. Does that change the need for touch, the need for
well, they say preparation is key, right? So if we're even having to pose that question, why not already have the necessary resources available just in case? Because there's matter of fact, I'm not going to go just in case. We are going exactly into that direction.
Yes.
Look at how we're communicating now.
The digital age. Absolutely.
That's okay. I mean, it's not bad, because as long as the option is still there to, socially interact on the physical, I don't think people will trip out too much.
Yeah.
Even with the center, we're not trying to hit capacity. With workstations, they have to be, a certain group of kids at a time. So whether it's 10 or 15 kids in the afternoon, where are they working at? No more than 4, of course, a certain ratio, something like that. But no, man, I just, I like YouTube. I like the internet. I like that we can get our message out. I like that we can call our peoples and, have conversation. for one, you know, my dad, I talk to my dad, and this is no slight at all, you know. This is just how, you know, how, for one, I'm grateful to be able to FaceTime him and you know, have, you know, one-on-ones.
These are right.
But you know what? It's all good. It's all good because I know I can still reach out and talk to him. So I'm not, you know, I'm just not going to kick and scream about, you know, having to become more digital. It's like, you know, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a book out there. If I was to write a book right now about this era, I would entitle it "The Cocooning of America." You know, we are in the cocoon, you know, and now when I think about what happens when that time is over and a butterfly emerges, right? Or there's some type of transformation that takes place. Something is happening. I don't know what it is, but I'd love to learn more about what's happening with this cocooning. I haven't seen my neighbors, you know, some of my neighbors, I have a few now, but months have gone by since I've seen several of my neighbors, you know, and they are cocooned. I'm cocooned, you know, in many ways. I go to work, I come home, I spend some time with family, I DJ, I watch a show, I maybe spend an hour on the phone with a friend, I go to bed, and I do it all over the next day, you know, and but what comes out of that? Is there something positive that comes out of cocoon?
Of course there's something positive.
Yeah.
Because now you're pushing the power of choice like never before in people's hands. Because for one, you're saying, hey guys, on the outside, we're going to throw up a bunch of roadblocks and restrictions. You are now forced to be creative,
yes,
and try to step and hurdle over those roadblocks.
Yeah.
I love the challenge. Bring it on.
And you have to spend more time with self. You know,
that's it.
We live in a
right.
in a world of in a society of distraction. I mean, from the time you have a newborn, I wonder if you have one of those music mobile, you know, those things that kind of spin around, and we don't like silence. We've been taught to endure silence, to spend time with self.
Yeah, we play, like, you know, I play, it's funny, because, you know, yesterday, just you say, you just reminded me again, right? You have a newborn. Yeah, he peed on me 4 times yesterday. Hey. 4 times.
Yeah,
he pooped on Sue. Like he literally, like, right on Sue, right on the pants.
Yeah.
So you know, I'm changing his diaper, and then he just starts peeing. He just starts.
Yeah, the geyser.
No, but then it's like all on his shoulder. It's hitting him in the shoulder, and I'm like, ah. So I like run him to the bathroom, and then he starts spraying all over the bathroom.
That's great.
All over the counter, all over the hair products. He just starts pissing everywhere. So, you know, then I'm like, dude, I gotta like give you like a slight bath. So I'm washing that. He's like screaming his little head off. He's like, and I'm like, Lewis, relax.
Yeah.
Relax. So I started putting on music, and, you know, and I'm just trying to talk to him, and I'm like, man, please don't pee. Please don't pee. Just let me change your blood. Please don't pee. It's now a fear. And then last night before bed, I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, my chest really just got really warm. It's just got really
good, warm inner feeling. And
I'm like, oh, I love you too. And I'm, you know, and I lift him up, and I'm like, oh shit, man, he just pissed, right? You know, to cover me up. But it's beautiful, man. Me and the wife just sit there and we laugh at it because, and then you should see my son. You know, he's carrying diapers like they're bombs. Oh God, no. I'm like, dude, come on, you know, come on.
No, these are, hey, this is good.
It's funny stuff. It's funny
It's
stuff.
good stuff. No, child
No, so he's like, yeah. I said, Langston, that's a lot. Like,
on you.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. He goes, no, I'm like, I gotta like get poop off books because I remember he was learning how to wipe his butt. That's maybe too much for my. That's a lot.
That's a lot right there.
No, but that's just parenting, man. It's.
Hey, I will tell you this. Let me give you props. Let me give you cred. You had little man in the Wu-Tang onesie.
Oh, that's one of many.
What? I'm seeing this kid has more drip than I've seen. I'm telling you right now. I mean, who is outfitted like your kid? Your kid is outfitted.
Well, no, I was rocking him to sleep to Can It All Be So Simple by Ray and Ghost, just because it's that real,
You're already instilling,
Well, that's just me, man. That's just me. So I'm just going to do quirky stuff like that.
But I do think it's important. I do think it's important that our children learn how to be still and silent with themselves. Because we are in an age of distraction. We are in an age of, there's just news, there's just messages coming at us all the time from billboards and radio spots and TV and there's just, we get inundated. When do we have time without noise to just be a human just being, not a human doer,
right?
A human being, just to be.
So I
just sit there.
I know your family did this because I can tell you guys did this because mine did this as well. We had reading time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a time where mom was like, hey guys, get your books, get some reading in, do some reading. And she used to drop me off. This is early on. And I remember like looking forward to that. I was reading like this Johnny Cochran biography one summer. I was like 12, dude. And all the while I'm reading like the LL Cool J biography at the same time. And I'm like, oh, I got these 2 books for the summer. I'm about to kill it.
Yeah.
But the excitement of being, like you said, still. And just having absolute focus on something and being able to just obtain knowledge without distraction. So I know you guys definitely had time, where it was like, all right, y'all, TVs are off. Go pick out your books. My mom used to drop me off to the library on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Just like, yo, get your study on. Come on, I'll pick you up again. Found some of the best books. Checked out. Come on, man. And then the best libraries have vinyl and they have CDs and they have
books on tape.
There's so much stuff, man. Like,
no, I know.
No, it's just a complete. I'm blessed. Yeah. So yeah, more power to self time. Yeah, I agree. Good. I agree. You probably just screwed up my kid Saturday because now we're gonna have reading time tonight. Like, we'll wait till Monday. We'll wait till Tuesday. We want to turn the grill on today. It's nice outside. Well, look, guys.
Have you watched anything?
Yes, I have.
Good to see. Like, you have any recommendations?
Lovebirds on Netflix is really good. I thought it was really funny.
Lovebirds?
Issa Rae. Yeah, Issa Rae. I don't know the other guy's name.
What about you, Soph? Anything you're watching?
Watching Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Ooh.
The Last Airbender.
I had never seen the series.
That's
Is it good?
The cartoon.
It is. I actually enjoy it more than I thought I would. It's funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, like, I'll laugh out loud watching, a cartoon made for like 8-year-olds. But
I tell you what, We Bear Bears. My son has turned me on to this show. And they were doing like a New Jack Swing episode, and there's so much song in it. And like he'll be on his hoverboard and he's like rapping the songs. and it's like a whole nother wave of music that I'm like, who is this? He goes, oh, it's the We Bare Bear soundtrack, Dad. And I'm like, and I'm listening. I'm like, it's not bad. It's really not being funny, but it's good. It's not bad. It's not bad. They got flow, you know, like, and I was like, okay. And you know what, man? I tell you what, it was one of those moments, you know, as a dad, more so as a dad, where you look at your son and you go, dude, you're getting a little too old, man. Like you see the kids kind of becoming themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I think it just motivates us more, and we all should be for this NVizion Center, because we need more of that. They need the space to develop themselves creatively, you know what I'm saying? There's enough negativity around us. I would like to end on that note because my phone's dying. And my house is really quiet and it's getting late. And I don't know if I like that too much.
No, that's what I'm talking about. You need silence in your life.
Yeah. No, it's the storm is coming. They're just brewing right now. Like Langston's like wrestling his feet a little bit.
Yeah, you're hearing the noise.
Some stuff. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's coming.
But look, I love y'all. Y'all stay safe.
Yes.
Much love.
All right.
Much love.
Take care.
All right.
See ya.
Peace out.